Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining. We'll get started here in just a minute. Got a fun little show coming to you guys live tonight, so just a bit. I feel like I should have some like NWA on or something right now, or Tribe Called Quest, maybe. I don't know. I feel like going old school roots right now. I want to get loose. Patrick, I see you over there.
How about the Partridge Family?
I think that works perfectly, actually.
Why am I muted?
You're not muted.
Talking here.
You're not muted.
Oh, okay. I unmuted myself.
No.
Come on, let's rock this thing.
So listen, everybody, welcome to Q Loves You, coming to you live. Just a crazy good old Monday here. So Mindful Monday, of course, with my friend and yours, Patrick Ney. Say hello.
Hey guys, what's happening?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Hi, nice to see you. Thanks for coming in again during this.
Of course.
Coming in on a Monday full of things, you know. But
what can we call this Monday? Like, you know, it was very depressing and very, enlightening. And after yesterday, just in the day before, it's been a crazy time.
I mean, I just think of the Bengals. I mean, what do you just didn't know?
No, don't.
I'm sorry. Is that too much? I don't know. I'm trying over here.
First of all, Prince wrote that song. That was written by an African American. Okay.
Well, and a Minnesotan
That's
representative.
true.
Yes,
yeah.
Which is another juxtaposition or not of this whole ordeal.
Well, want to hear something bizarre is that my friend Mickey, who is the general manager at the Lobster Restaurant right at Ground Zero, all that stuff was happening. Yeah. When he was a kid, Prince was his babysitter.
Come on.
And he was his babysitter. And like Prince would come on, I'd be like, what was that like? And Prince, they had a junky piano in the basement. Because, in the Midwest, like everybody has a basement. And
yes, great. We had like 5.
So, and we go there to have fun. We don't hide in it. Sorry. And so he said that like Prince would come over and play that piano. And like, he'd be like, you guys have to do this, this, and this. Do not get out of line. And they're like, okay. But he said Prince would often practice something on the piano like over and over and over till he got it exactly right. And you want to talk about one of those guys that was 10,000 hours. He was 100,000 hours.
Well, that's right. That's what it takes. I mean, that's what it takes. I mean, that's if that's any shows anything, it's exactly what.
And I just think if he was alive, this really would have broken his heart, because I know that he loved the people of that state, and that state loved him, and he did so much for Minneapolis and giving it another layer of culture. It's just like, just one more thing. It's like the whole thing is ridiculous because everybody should be completely equal. The African American culture has given us so much in the arts and music and culture and learning and inventing. I mean, you name it. And it's like, I can't even believe we're here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It still blows my mind.
It's horrible. It's a horrible thing. It's a horrible thing. And so, we're going to get into that a little bit further down the line. But, the main thing for tonight, which we kind of got sidetracked over the last week due to all this, right? I mean, which is great. But again, we'll cover a lot of that. But we're going into, the restaurant world and what has really gone on in the last couple months. And my good friend and our next guest that's coming up today, happened to just pop open a restaurant in this really magical time of the year called January, right before it all went down, which made it absolutely insane. We'll hear the story in a little bit, but it's what it's gone on and how difficult it's been just to open a restaurant. For those that know, it's absolutely
that's an intense job.
it takes years of planning and decades of knowledge to really do this
and lots of blow.
Never done that. That is never.
Come on, that never. Q, why are you going there?
This is a family show. Come on, give me a second.
Oh, sorry.
Just kidding.
I'll pretend I never worked in restaurants for 20 years.
Well, anyway, so this gentleman has no experience Howard doing any of this. That's his dad's name, by the way. Anyway, I know he's watching. But please, everybody, welcome to the show. My good friend, Christopher Parth. Hello, Chris Parth. Are you there?
Unmute him.
I am unmuted.
Hi.
Hello,
Thank you.
everybody.
Say hi again.
Chris, how you doing, buddy?
We're good. We're
Yeah.
holed up out in the suburbs. We moved out of the city about right when the lockdown happened, so we're safe out in the quiet here.
What suburb do you live in?
Well, we're in Plainfield, which is about 30 miles southwest.
Sure, I know exactly where it is.
Mhm.
Plainfield, Illinois, which is I think it was 92. Those tornadoes really
The tornadoes.
tore it up. I remember
Mhm.
that. Yeah,
Yeah.
Joliet's counterpart, a little bit.
A little bit. Well,
Close.
so you're sitting with you've got your two felines sitting next to you. Is that right? We got.
Canines. They're canines. They're dogs.
How about I say felines?
Yeah, felines.
Oh yeah, that's same thing.
Ugh.
They're laying around. They're
Okay.
doing what they normally do, which is nothing, which is great.
Yeah.
So
Wilson. What's his name? Wilson.
Otis Redding and Buddy Guy are the two dogs.
Buddy Guy. Okay, no music relations. Nothing to do.
None
with
whatsoever. No.
It's all about the music. All about the music. So, well, welcome to the show, Chris. Thanks for taking time out and doing this. I know you've been extremely busy and getting going on the restaurant reopening. I go, never really closed, but kind of keeping it going during this whole downtime, right? Why don't you give us a little history of kind of what you've done, how long you've worked on this, when you popped the doors. Give us a little background story on that.
Wait, can I ask a quick
can-
question, Chris?
Sure.
Before you do that, will you go back even a little further? Just give us a little background of like your Chicago, credentials.
Sure. Well, so I mean, I guess starting in the restaurant part of my life was 2006. Moved from Chicago to California. Started with the Mastro's group, and took a management position within the first year at the Newport Beach restaurant, which is where Q and I met. Who, side story, we did not like each other for a very long time. And, finally,
The thing is, I
came
liked
around.
him at first. Now I'm like,
That's true.
So yeah, I spent 3.5 years in Newport, and went to open the Las Vegas Mastros. Spent about 9 months out in Vegas, and then came back home to Chicago and opened up Chicago Mastros, and then worked for a couple other restaurants as GM, and just kind of been doing this now going on 14 years. So
14 years. And where did you go to college? You went to college in
Dubuque, Iowa, Loras College, Duhawk. Yes,
and you went for
Loris.
Loras.
Yeah, no, I know that. My friend's sister went there.
Yeah, no kidding. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Wild.
God, I haven't
But,
heard that in ages because I'm from Chicago, so it's like, I get it.
It was a good school. It was it was a good experience for me. So glad I
Yeah.
went.
business. Yes. Was it finance?
It was business management, partly because that's what I wanted to do, and partly because it took like slightly less credits to graduate with.
Smart man.
Yeah, a couple reasons we got into that major.
But I went to school in the Midwest in Illinois, and those Iowa, Illinois, Indiana, that was a fun place to be a few years back.
Mhm.
Those colleges were fun, like great parties, great people. That was good times.
No time to party, man. I just studied all day, every day. Dubuque, Iowa. There's
Yeah.
do is
Yeah.
study.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
That's
Dubuque,
good.
the only problem with Dubuque, Iowa was they probably had 4.2 beer. I remember people complaining about it. It's like, it's 4.2 or 3.2. 3Q.
Near
I drink
beer?
IPAs, they're like 10. Like 3.2 is like ginger ale.
We were a Busch Light college for sure.
Yeah, I'm sure. That's awful.
Bush. So Bush. Anyway. And I heard
That's my wife in the background. Yeah, she's got a distinct laugh, so you might hear that once or twice.
yes.
Right.
Some people don't know that whole Bush thing yet. But all right.
So to go back, so that was the history with Harbor. I'll try to keep it as abbreviated as I can, but I mean, we started looking at our space. The restaurant that had
Harbor Chicago, by the way, is what it's called. Harbor Chicago on 1302?
1312 South Wabash. So basically Roosevelt and Wabash. We've luckily escaped any looting and damage so far, so that's been good. The restaurant that had been there before was there a very long time, about 18 years, was a neighborhood favorite. Their lease was ending. So we looked at the space, and I knew when I walked in, and I think actually Q, you were there shortly after I'd seen it for the first time, and just saw the potential that it had. And we knew that it was a space that we wanted. And so we went through the process of, negotiating with the landlord, getting funding going, figuring out, how we're going to design it, what the concept fully was going to be. We already had a loose idea, but you really can't fully envision your concept, I think, until you have the space, because, they both kind of work together, what your concept is versus what the space will let it be. And so after having gone in a bunch of times and seen it and walked through it, it took us about, I want to say, a year of negotiating with the landlord, getting the lease signed, getting all the, the funding secured through the SBA and our business partner. And then just going through the design process and the construction process, which this building was built in 1890, and we inherited a lot of problems. So, as with any restaurant project, I think that we experienced the normal delays. I think we were about 6 months behind, cost overruns, schedule overruns, that kind of thing. So we were almost 20 months in before we opened. Initially, we thought we'd be open by like October, which gave us perfect timing.
Yeah.
Holiday season.
Yeah. That whole
party rooms in the back, they're going to be cranking, they're going to be packed. And then we hit like a 12-week delay. And so now we're looking at January, and we're like, couldn't be a worse time to open in the restaurant industry. And then so we're like, well, let's find the positive in that.
January is
staffing,
lovely that time of year.
Yeah, January, Chicago, perfect. Everybody loves it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Let me just jump
If
off
you
a
ask
bridge
any
and I'll
restaurant
see you
person,
at
that's
happy
exactly
hour.
the month.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the month anyone would choose to open a restaurant in Chicago. So
Yeah.
but the good part for us was, staffing. People tend to look for more jobs in the new year, and so our staffing wasn't as difficult. Being a new restaurant, you always have that buzz, so that kind of carried us through. So we opened on January 13th, soft open, fully opened a week later, and then like almost exactly 2 months after our opening was the day we were ordered to shut down. So that kind of got us to that point.
Well, and so you guys is 8,000 square feet? Is that right?
Just about, yeah. We have we're fire marshaled at 180.
How many employees did you have? If you don't, what was how many?
We were just shy of 50.
Okay. And so you had just hired 50 people, went through training, got them all dialed in, started making a little money, and then they said, pull the plug. Right?
Yes.
2 months
yes.
in. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So when they pulled the plug, what went through your mind, man? What was it like?
Oh, we were crushed. We were sitting at our local neighborhood eatery having lunch, my wife and I cried when the news came out. Just cried, because it was one of those things where it was so uncertain, and we were already on such thin ice that it's like, man, if we can't do business, like, how are we going to do this? And so, the initial shock kind of wore off, and it was like, all right, how are we going to make this work? So we opened for a day after we were mandated to close to do carry out. And we sat there and we were just like, we don't feel right about this. We don't feel
safe.
Like we have enough information. We don't feel safe. We don't feel like we can keep our staff safe, that our guests can be safe. We don't know enough. So we shut it down for about 3.5 weeks, just went dark. Went in, cleaned everything up, cleaned it out, made sure it was, ready to reopen when we could. And then after a few weeks, we're like, okay, there's other restaurants that are opening back up. We have more information. We kind of have I don't want to say a handle on things, but we felt better about it. And we've been running a skeleton crew. It's basically been our chef partner, our sous chef, and myself.
And that's Tony.
So that's Anthony. Yeah, Anthony Bernal. I'm a prep cook during the day. We get there at 9 or 10 a.m. and we just start prepping. It's 3 of us. And we have an entirely different menu. It is not our normal food. It's very family-friendly barbecue and tacos and pizza, and just not our normal fare, but it's been doing really well. But yeah, it's 60 hours a week of full-time work, and just to do what we're doing now.
Are you seeing a lot of I mean, the same peeps coming in, a lot of locals, are you building a nice rapport with those that are coming in? Do you find that helping at all in a weird way?
It has been absolutely heartwarming to get the support of the neighborhood like we have. I mean, we always knew we would be a neighborhood place. We aren't necessarily a destination spot. And the amount of regulars we get, we've started doing it.
Chris, will you explain the neighborhood to people that don't really understand where it's at?
Sure. So the South Loop, I don't know the exact boundaries, but it's basically you take where Soldier Field is, head a little bit west. It goes a little bit north of that, a little bit south of that. It kind of is bordered by like Chinatown and the river. And it's kind of like Roosevelt is where the border is. And it's very loyal, fiercely loyal neighborhood, I would say. And you have to win them over right away. A lot of restaurants come in and don't do well because they aren't understanding of that. It's very dense. There's over 100-something thousand people, I think, in a very small radius. A lot of high rises, a lot of new construction that's going up. Developing neighborhood. It's a growing neighborhood.
How far?
It's fantastic. It's vibrant.
Are you guys close to Greektown?
Not really. That's more. It's north of us.
Yeah.
So not a little west, but yeah.
You're like 10 minutes from like the river, right?
Yes. Yeah. And that's the great thing about it is you can get a lot of places from that neighborhood. You can get down to
River North,
Chinatown Park. You can get up to River North if you want, really. You can get to Fulton, West Loop, all that. And it's all very centrally, like the arteries are right there to get to. So,
well,
it's a fantastic neighborhood. And
yeah, that's great. My friend who does a kayak architectural tour is just opening that area of the river because it's been kind of dormant and this whole area is coming together. And it's like, so he's taking people down there and they're cleaning up that part of the river immensely. And it's just like, this is another incredible, iconic part of Chicago that a lot of people really didn't even know about. So now it's really becoming something. So that's amazing that you're part of that. And I bet those people are pretty intense who live down there because that's real Chicago Q, if you understand what I'm saying.
Well, and that's the other thing too. You guys took over that restaurant that been here 18 years. I mean, that had a great, right? That was pretty loyal following, didn't it?
What restaurant was it?
It was called Joko. So it was a very classic Italian spot that had been there a very long time. And that was something we knew we had to navigate was how are we going to come in here and make it feel different enough without changing the character of the space that people don't just walk in and feel like, oh, they just changed the paint and, bought some new, tables and called it a new restaurant. So that was one of the challenges we went through to figure out how we were going to build it out.
I think the space is absolutely gorgeous. So if anybody goes on, I think it's, Harbor Chicago, at Harbor Chicago on Instagram, if I'm not mistaken, but you can see all the pictures
at Harbor Chicago Instagram, harborchicago.com online.
Yeah. And it's
all up
really,
there.
It's got a very classy, Chicago lakefront feel to it. The color schemes are really great. I like the open kitchen that I've seen so far. And, obviously Patrick and I are talking about doing some live shows up there in the next few months, hopefully. But you guys have your menu too. Your price point is aiming about what, 30 to 50, somewhere in that range. Is that right? Technically speaking, when you're open?
I think we were probably mid 40s blended amongst everything. We were dinner only, so we don't have any lunch costs in there. But yeah, I'd say we trended right in the mid to high 40s. But the focus was always like value. So making sure that, the perception of the quantity was there, but the quality was also there. It's not one of those places where you're going to get the heaping mound of pasta and, which is great. I love that, but that wasn't our concept. And so we had to toe that line of, all right, where can we fall in? And when we did our research, there's a lot of places that have been there a very long time that are doing elevated food. Acadia is down the street, which is Michelin starred. You've got Italian restaurants doing great stuff and their price points are a little higher. And you have a lot more casual dining that the price points were lower. And we found a niche right in that $40 to $50 range that just didn't seem to really exist down there that we wanted to fill. So that's what we went for.
Well, and that's right up our alley. I mean, for a lot of us, right? If we're going out to a dinner, I think that's right. My sweet spot for just going for a chill place to go. But that's one thing I definitely remember when we were looking at the food, when I was getting pictures of the food and and looking at the menu prices, I thought it was nice. It was really the wine list, the liquor pricing. I thought it was all priced very affordable, and the food was eclectic enough, but you had a nice balance of I guess that medium to low feel to it with the pizzas and stuff like that, I guess, right? And then, but it still had an elevated game to it, which I thought was I think it's a great price point. I think it's a great concept. I hope people go to Chicago and definitely get a chance to jump in there. What you guys took a while looking at that, right? That menu, getting that menu going.
It took a while, and figuring out how to toe that line of approachability with the way the restaurant looked when you walked in to not scare people away. That we didn't want them to feel like it was too fancy or, like too like not cozy. And so when in the design process, making sure that was important, and then designing the menu kind of in that line of, we have pizzas, but we also have these really cool fish sets and a duck ballotine, which is not something you see a lot of places. In
charcuterie.
Yeah.
Charcuterie. And this is a charcuterie
cheeses.
room. You guys got a charcuterie room, right? Technically ish.
We do. We were never able to really launch it to the way we wanted to, but it's there. So one day we'll get to use it.
I'll pig out in there, bro.
You have a charcuterie room that's still a virgin.
yeah.
Yes, it has not been used yet, unfortunately. But
well, don't let Q in there.
I will never leave.
He'll just wreck
He does not have access. No way. I can't afford that.
And awesome. so like, where how long did you work for Mastro's, and like what Chicago, because I am biased because I love that city, but it's a great food town, and they're always up to something there. You know what I mean? It's like there's always something that comes out of nowhere that you're like, and it doesn't get the credibility of the New York, and and LA is like not even. I mean, LA is like they're putting in a play, but in Chicago, it's like you're really getting something. So like, what's been in the last 5 years, and where are things going?
That's a really good question. So to answer your first question, I was with Mastro's about 10 years, I think nine plus. And then I just kind of wanted to go experience something other than steakhouse, because once you kind of figure out a steakhouse, they're generally similar. Some do it better than others, but
as Don Rickles would say, beef and booze, baby.
Yeah, there was a lot of beef and a lot of booze going on.
And a Bronx trip to Mexico.
Yes. Hey, that's a great name for a restaurant, by the way.
Beef and booze.
Straight up.
Beef and booze.
I think it's an old SCTV bit. Like, we won't be serving vegetables to you. It's like, and they kick out the squirrely guy. Like, do you have any vegetables? Like, get out of here. Because I mean, there is when you go to Chicago, you'll eat these family meals in these really nice, expensive restaurants, and they just start putting these plates of stuff, and you're like, Jesus, I'm from LA. I'm gonna start crying, and like I'm nervous breakdown. It's like, here's food, it's like they have like Vikings bring it in, and they eat, and it's like, this is the best thing I've ever had, and it's like zero pretension, but you're like, this is gonna cost a lot, and the drinks are always like, God dang it, who made this? I mean, it's just like Chicago always delivers on the food, and just when you think you know it all, they reinvent some wheel. I love it. The city's so great about that.
Well, and I think both you and Tony are kind of Anthony's from there too, right? I mean, from Chicago. Is he a Chicago born?
Anthony's from Albuquerque. He's from Albuquerque. So he's got a very Southwest feel to his cooking. Like we had a green chili stew on, some things that weren't necessarily like based, which is what our concept was. But to answer your question about
but you also have walleye or something, right? Didn't you?
We had walleye, we had trout, we had cod. I don't know what the trend was, to be honest with you. I don't know if there was one. I think it was just quality restaurants, because for a while it was, big portions, excess, and then it was shared plates, and then it was kind of communal dining.
Right, yeah, like Girl and the Goat, Alinea. I mean, then you kind of those higher.
Yeah, just food comes when it comes. You're gonna get a bunch of stuff, order it, share it. And
the Purple Pig.
I don't know.
I lived right down this around the corner.
Same thing.
Loved it.
Yeah. They just Chicago always it just comes out like, when I go there, there's always things that I want to do. It's like, I got to go by Second City. I got to go by the Art Institute. Then I go and find all the food places. Like every little specific food, because no one makes a hot dog like they do in Chicago. I don't care what anybody says. You got Greektown, you got you used to have Marshall Fields, which always had really good food. That may have been before even your time, Q. But they always had these like specific things that I still go there and seek out, even if they don't exist anymore. It's like, like George Bailey walking into like, where is everybody? It's like, because it was such iconic stuff, but it's like it changes. And
well, and I think
in LA it changes by in months. Chicago changes by like 5 years.
Well, I've certainly noticed, even from being gone, whatever, I've been gone now 6 years, moved away, right? But certainly you're right, Chris. I mean, I remember, it's coming back now. It's like all these, what's the area over by where Alenia is? That whole Girl and the Goat. What's that whole area?
Yeah, Fulton. Yeah,
Fulton,
Randolph and Fulton and that
Yeah.
whole neighborhood.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many good little restaurants over there that popped
West
up.
Loop.
West Loop.
Yeah, so that's last time I did some shows at City Winery, which is down there, and I was like, I couldn't believe it how happening that area was. But because when I lived in Chicago,
Mhm.
that was like, where it was like just like
You
bums
didn't-
and
you didn't go
nothing,
there.
and like it was just a beat up like meat packing district. Like nothing was there. Like no one would even think. And that's what's great about reinventing the wheel. And in a city like Chicago, you can do it. In LA, it's kind of like, you can do it if you have $1 billion.
Yeah, right. Yeah, you can do it, right?
Right. Well, and that's what's tricky in that Fulton Market neighborhood is the rents got so high that if an independent restaurant like us would never be able to survive there at $75 a square foot. That's just not a number.
But
A lot of places can.
Yeah, that's about 2000 when we got out. I mean, it's been 10 years ago, I guess, since we got to Chicago. But during it, right? I mean, it was nothing. I remember everybody talking about going out there when they popped. There was those first couple spots over there were paying nothing. There were a couple bars.
It was like Haymarket was down there, the brewery, which was doing great.
And it was nothing.
Girl and the Goat came, and that was the restaurant that really lit it up,
Yeah.
where everyone's like, okay, this is the neighborhood we got to be in.
Yep.
Yeah.
That was there.
Yeah.
That was a staple. But
that's
what was that?
Light the fire. That's what we were hoping with the South Loop was that it was very restaurant deprived, and there's great restaurants down there, but for the amount of people, it didn't seem like there was that much, and so that was why we loved it so much. It was just like, why aren't more restaurants here? We figure it out.
When I was a kid, though, they always tried to pretend that there were great restaurants in the suburbs too. You know what I mean? And it just seems like nowadays it's like there's great places to eat, like Super Dog out in up there in the up north west Chicago, but like that's a hot dog place. But I'm saying it's like, is there any potential in the suburbs anymore? Is it just like everything that's like cool and new happens in the city?
No, I think there's great restaurants out in the suburbs. My wife is a wine rep, and her territory is the North Shore, so like Evanston, all up in there.
Yeah, Evanston, yeah.
There's a lot of really good one-off restaurants up there that are just family-owned, that have been doing it a very long time. That are getting creative, that are great, and I think the suburbs get a reputation of being very chain-based.
Yeah,
but there are a lot of really quality operations going on.
Well, the North Shore, there's for sure, yeah, because it's more affluent. But yeah, they've always had good stuff.
Mhm.
What company does your wife work for?
Southern Wine. So one of the two
Know 'em
major
well.
wine
Know
purveyors.
'em well.
in the
Yeah,
state.
you do.
Yeah.
You know.
You better be careful. Tell her not to talk back to those guys. They get a little crazy.
Listen, let's jump into a little bit of what went on here once that news. We kind of jumped into that for a second. I want us to talk about
Sure.
how, just get into the business side of things just a little bit. So you cried. We got to crying, right? You ended up crying a little bit.
I did.
I want to bring it up.
Yes.
I want to bring
very
it
much.
up. I want to bring that up a few times because I know it's horrible, but for some reason,
Hey, keep it coming.
And believe me,
I'm okay
crying
with
is
it.
okay.
I'm okay with it.
Crying is okay. Q cried when I took
Yes.
his cigarettes away. So
I don't smoke. What are you talking about?
okay, never mind.
I cried on my Instagram story today, by the way. But you cried. So and then take us through. How did you come out of it? What was the magic?
Well, it took time. I mean, there was no solution. It was
Sorry, Chris. Let me interrupt you. Let me start you here. once you got into it, and I want to kind of jump into it, the PPP aspect of this, and how the initial, when the first initial things came out about the money, the first stipulations,
Mhm.
you guys opening up, what was the jam you got put in there?
With the first round of the PPP?
Yeah, remember you were talking about, because you had that time frame. You guys opened up at a really unique point, like kind of.
Yeah, well, like I said, we were mostly financed through one of our business partners in the SBA through a bank. So our funding was unique, I think, compared to a lot of restaurants where they get individual investors to kind of fund the whole thing. So once the mandate came down to shut down, obviously we were very close talks with the bank about, like pushing back loan repayments and that sort of thing, extending the terms, because we were probably pushing 40,000 a week in sales in our 2 months.
Okay.
Now we're doing 10% of that. When the first PPP came out, we didn't get it because I don't think really anybody did at that point. It was very much, the bigger companies got it, and that was that whole story. No one really knew what to do with it. We missed out on a few grants because we were not open in 2019, and some of those grants, to qualify, you had to have been a business the year before, which we were not. So we missed out on those. And then going into more SBA loans was not attractive because we were pretty leveraged, and it's hard to justify taking on more debt with so much uncertainty. So we kind of just sat and watched. We didn't have a choice. We had to wait, and we did, like I said, for about 3.5 weeks, went up to doing carry out, and then waited for more news to develop and see what the government and the, Illinois and federal was going to do. And so the second round of PPP came through, which we did qualify for and received. However, it's still really vague. If you go read the language in the loan documents, it's very scary, because if we got $250,000 or whatever our number was, and you have to use 75% of that for payroll, but I can't be in business. So how am I going to spend $190,000 on payroll when I can't sell anything really? I have me and my partner and a chef. We have one person on payroll essentially, because we're not drawing paychecks. And so how am I going to spend all this money to have it be forgiven? And there's not an answer for that, because I can't bring in 30 of my staff.
Well, and you can't bring in 30 of your staff, and then you've got what was it that we were talking about? What was the petition that was going around for a little bit?
We were just trying to raise awareness of the fact that small restaurants and restaurants in general, I think, were being left behind, because the PPP was not designed for restaurants. It was designed for just small business in general, which, retailers could open and hire back, and other places could be in business, but restaurants weren't allowed to be. And so we just wanted to try and make people aware that, and thank you to all the 2,000 plus people that, signed on for us, that we needed more help than that, and that wasn't going to be enough. And I think that you've seen a lot of industry leaders like Kevin Bain from the Boca Group, and the Melmans from Let Us Entertain You, they're really spearheading this effort to talk with the Restaurant Association and get with the government to really say, hey, restaurants are the biggest private sector employer in Illinois, and they're getting the least amount of help. They got less than like 15% of all these loans. And so A, where's the money going? And B, how are we going to help support these places that need the help, that they're already living on a 5% margin?
And I remember, I think I saw a big article or something that came out in Chicago about that. But I know the Restaurant Association, they went in to get, I don't know, whatever it was, they were only going to get $5 billion or some crazy small amount or something like that. They weren't going to get anything really. And then I think they went back in to go for a kill and say like they need like $250 billion because of nationwide or something crazy like that, or something like that, right?
Right. Well, and you have to ask for more than you think you're going to get. And I know that the House just passed a rule to try to extend the PPP, because essentially the initial
2 months.
It has to be spent by the end of this month, end of June. You have to go through all of it. So they're trying to extend that another 120 days, I think. And then they're trying to lessen the payroll percentage from 75 down to 60, I think is what they had passed, and now it's waiting in the Senate.
Yeah, they were talking about signing it this week possibly or something like that, right? Trying to get
That would be very helpful, to be able to have more time to spend it. And then obviously with all the civil unrest going on right now, we were poised to try to open up on Friday to seat a few tables in what we could consider an outdoor cafe. And I don't know if we're going to be able to do that right now. And so that extends, like, now if we can't bring staff back this week, you know, we lose more time. And so all these things are kind of working against us to try to abide by the rules of this program, but it's kind of impossible. So we're not in a situation where we like are able to do much with it. We're just sitting on this money, not touching it, just saying just until we know more.
Yeah, I mean, and they sorry to cut you off. I mean, you have to be exact on this, right? You got to have all your accountants on there. Anything that falls off, and you now owe this money back. So they give you this great deal and say, okay, this is awesome, but any misstep, and you are now you're paying on that $250K when you're banking.
Right. Well, and they wanted you to pay it back within 2 years. And so if you somehow messed up and you spent $150,000 and it wasn't forgiven, you've got to pay that back in 24 months.
Wow.
And okay, 1% interest is low, but that's still a big payment to make for a lot of places.
But even at 1%, I mean, you're 12 grand a month, something like that. I mean, if you're at 150K, give or take.
It would be like 8 or 9. It'd be a lot. And especially for us just coming out of opening, still, you know, reconciling pre-opening debt and getting current with vendors, you know, throw another 8,000 or 9,000 on there a month. There's no way.
Sorry. Six, something like that. 6 grand. Sorry.
Come on, use the server math, dude. Calculate that as a gratuity.
It's been a while.
20% and work from.
It's been a while, man. I used to be like this. They used to call me the calculator. I don't know. Bushinator.
Right?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think people really understand how restaurants make money in the sense of how they really do, as opposed to like some people think, oh my God, that place is busy all the time. They must be crushing it. And then it's like, they're not, you know?
Yeah.
Because of like costs can be like, you have no idea how much it costs to run this.
No. I've worked in restaurants that were pulling, you know, high teens a profit, but that's a high-end steakhouse where it's $150 per person to go eat there.
Yeah.
Restaurants in our price point operate in single-digit percentages for profit if you're lucky. You know, we weren't profitable yet because we weren't established enough, but most restaurants are sitting around 5 or 10%. And every time that the minimum wage increases, the price of beef goes up, you know, there's a cold snap and produce gets more expensive, like those things cut into you, and it's hard to fluctuate your menu prices. And so a lot of times you absorb it. And I think what's going to happen now is you're going to see a lot of restaurants, they're going to be passing that on immediately. I mean, the menu prices will fluctuate
meat's going
very
up
fast.
Yeah, I mean, things are going up, and like, you know, considering the problems in the meat packing industry with coronavirus, it's like these prices are shooting up, and it's, you know, it's frightening because, you know, especially when pork goes up, that's sort of a mainstay meat, and like a lot of restaurants really depend on, you know, things like pork belly because, you know, they've reinvented pork belly as like a big seller at a lot of these new hip restaurants they have. And it's, you know, the reason why they have it, because in LA you'll be in a place where it's like, you know, a little salady thing and then like an egg, and you're like, $19 like for an egg and like salad. I mean, at least, but so the other one of that is pork belly, which is like the, you know, the fatter part of bacon, and you're like, wow, this is really good. And pork belly doesn't cost anything. So I mean, now it's going to be like meat is so expensive now, and it's also another message sending meat eaters like myself, you know, like that the world wants us to eat. The earth is like, starting eating less meat. Just don't do it. I mean, I don't know. Believe me, that's not an easy thing for me.
No,
I shouldn't say that.
Well, and that's kind of finding the balance too. I mean, having a little bit of produce, having a little bit of meat, a little bit of like, what's your menu kind of like, Chris?
Well, so the menu that we had before was our fall winter menu. So it was a little bit more protein heavy. Obviously, fresh produce is very tough to find in the winter months. So we probably had 8 protein dishes, 3 or 4 salads, the pizzas, and some appetizers. I mean, it was very balanced. I think it was a little bit of something for everybody. And then we're already kind of talking about what we're going to do for this, spring menu. It hasn't been decided yet, but it's just, we're on this weird precipice of like, when we reopen, how much, we have to spend X amount to restock the walk-in to be able to prep all this food to get a new menu ready. And with what we've been doing, can we cross over some of what we're doing now with product we have to adjust it to this new menu and use every possible scrap that we've got to make quality food, to try to be consistent with what we were before the shutdown. And obviously we morphed into something very different over the last 6 weeks. And how do we come back into that to become what we wanted to be originally? And that's a challenge that we are working on, and just we don't have an answer for it just yet.
What's some of the things, because I know you're starting to, well, we're about to pop the doors on Friday, right? What are some of the new changes that you've seen coming down the line with the new, what can people expect? I mean, there's a few things like people, obviously masks and stuff like that, but what are some things that people don't really know about?
Oh, as far as service goes.
Yeah.
Well, so for us, the city passed the ordinance that outdoor spaces can open, but not on an actual active sidewalk. So we have a sidewalk out front where we could put tables out, but we're not allowed to at the moment. So places that have like a Big Star, where you're not in a public walkway,
Gotcha.
that have a huge patio, or that have Piccolo Sonio that has a back patio, and other places that are off can do that. But they put a little asterisk in and said, if you have like a garage door or floor to ceiling windows or doors, which is what we have, and those can open, you can have tables within 8 feet of that opening.
Oh, so you can slide
we're
your doors and still have them in the inside and make it feel like it's the outside.
Yes.
Whatever, like patio, right?
Exactly. So an indoor space can be considered an outdoor space if you follow those rules. Tables 6 feet apart. So we have a very narrow space, but it's very long, and so we can fit 3 tables, which will give us, I think, 14 seats.
So you nothing outside, but you have those 3 tables inside at least.
We'll have those 3 tables inside. So we're planning on that. Obviously, we'll have to see what happens over the next day or two with the protests and the looting and all that, if they're going to change that. But that's the plan right now.
Well, I'll tell you, the good thing out of all this is you'll be at max capacity. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying?
It won't take much to be fully seated. No.
Yeah, bro. You're gonna be 100%. You're gonna be like sold out. It's gonna be sick.
It'll be great. And so we're talking about how can we maximize that? Let's open for lunch. We're already there all day anyway, so let's see some tables for lunch. And I think everyone who's come in from the neighborhood is asking, and they're very excited. And so I don't think that'll be a problem is filling those tables. Our concern is just making sure that it's done right and it's done safely, and for the staff and the guests. And the rules are, Chicago put out these guidelines, which was great, but they're really guidelines, not necessarily rules. There's not a lot of specifics. And masks, of course, are required, spacing and all that stuff. But then there's a lot of, well, if possible, you should do this, and when you can, you should do this. And so it's very uncertain of like, well, it'd be easier if they just came out and said, this is what you can do and can't do, but that's not really happening. So we kind of have to navigate that ourselves.
So you don't really have rules, but you have rules. If you want to do the rules, you can, So the thing you're talking about, like,
yeah, because in Chicago, you just give somebody an envelope with
yeah. Oh yeah.
Used to be. Yeah.
Oh, it's happened. Yeah. We used to get those. I used to get those envelopes.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
No, not anymore.
Not anymore.
Not anymore.
But stuff like single-use menus, disposable condiments, so like salt and pepper packets, and not doing stuff like that. And just a lot of, hand washing and just being safe. And we have an open kitchen, like you had said. So we're on display all the time. And so we are very hypersensitive to making sure that the perception of what we're doing is everyone's going to be comfortable with, because the last thing we want to do is make people feel that we're not doing everything we can. And, restaurants in general, there's a lot of touching. There's a lot of just things being handed off, people preparing your food. All those things. It's inevitable.
And the bar. I mean,
going to a bar. I mean, I think there's going to be 3 types of people that come out of this, and it's going to be people that don't go to restaurants anymore because they're just sketched out by it, which is understandable. People that are leery, that are going to be very cautious, and then the people that are like, I just want to go out and eat again. I don't really care. And so I don't know what that mix is going to be, but it'll be interesting to kind of see. And we'll learn a lot in the first few days, just like we did when we opened for the carryout. It was a whole different operation for us. We're essentially reopening our restaurant again, brand new, so what we did before isn't going to apply, and we've got to figure it out again.
Are they gonna let you keep doing like to go liquor and stuff like that? I know they made the adjustments to the liquor or wine, or permits or whatever.
As far as I know, they are. We're selling growlers of beer and bottles of wine. Cocktails, they're going back and forth on, so we can sell. It has to be in its original packaging. So I could sell you a bottle of tequila
and the mixer,
our house margarita mix, but I can't sell you a pre-made margarita with the booze in it now.
They do that here.
No, I was gonna say not even a jarred thing. Like if you had a pre-made jar.
So in the last week, it has come to the desk, I think, of the mayor and the governor of allowing that to happen, as long as it's in, they call like a tamper-proof container,
right,
which they haven't said what a tamper-proof container is. So that's in the works as well, but we can't do that just yet.
That'd be interesting. Like, I mean, I think about like, what could they do? I mean, could you get like a canning type thing that you can literally,
I would bottle it. I'd bottle it and get a bottle capper and just send that out. But right now, so like if I sell growler beer, I have to get a little.
And it's quite popular.
Yeah, they're doing it. I mean, they're doing it out here, but it's different wherever.
Yeah, but Chicago's much more laid back when it comes to like, they drink up.
Yeah,
I mean, it's not New Orleans, but it's
but it's a little bit more. It's a little bit more open-minded than LA in that sense. So that surprises me that they're not doing it.
Yeah, I know. I mean, you're stuck in your house for 6 months a year. You know what I mean? I mean,
come on,
just go drive with the snowplow. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the logic that I heard was that they didn't want people using unsealed containers from where they bought it to when they got home, which is kind of flimsy. But it makes sense. But at the same time, it's like, if I can give you a growler of beer with this thin little shrink wrapped plastic on the top of the cap that anybody could just twist and remove, it's not like a child-proof pill container. I mean, it's pretty easy. And so I don't know. I think some of it's the illusion of, being precautious, and some of it is just not necessarily all the way thought through. So for a lot of places that don't sell food, like that's their lifeline. We're fortunate that we have a kitchen, but places that are just bars that want to sell drinks, they have no to do that, and that's tough.
Yeah.
So what are you guys going to plan on having any kind of? I mean, I know you're trying to open up again on coming up soon. Are you going to have like a grand opening that people can know about? Are you going to like pop the doors a little differently here or something like that? I mean, you know what I mean? It might not be a
good question. Good
idea.
We hadn't gotten that far into it. We've been trying to stay active on social media and promote what we're doing right now. And as far as like a grand reopening, I don't know. I don't know what that looks like, because it depends on how many people we can have in the restaurant when we can open. Is it a percentage? Is it a number? I don't know. And a lot of that, we have ideas that are on the burners, but until we get the word of what we're able to do, we can't commit really, which is hard, because as restaurant people, we're doers. We see, we act, we take care of stuff, and to not be able to do that is tough. To sit and wait and be kind of powerless is a very unusual situation to be in.
Very foreign for restaurant people. Well, at least restaurateurs or managers. I mean, we have a sickness about working. You work until you can't work anymore, and then you work some more just because you're used to working. But I'm really, I'll tell you this. I'm really stoked for you. Obviously, you're one of my best friends, and love you like a brother, man. And to watch you, watching you go through what you've gone through, and I remember that phone call getting from you when so for anybody watching, we've gone through this process really together, and as a lot of us have for close. But he's been up and down this thing, and the conversation to go from the crying point to functioning and getting PPP when you think it's all over, when you think it's dead in the water after all this. We had talked about, what was it? Was it the 3 foot story? 3-foot story, the gold.
Yeah.
3-foot.
Mhm.
Anyway, we won't talk about that, but you get so close. You get so close, and it's like that last 3 feet is just the last couple inches is just the hardest time to get. It's like the universe just like, you gotta prove yourself. You gotta prove yourself. You gotta prove yourself.
Yeah.
So to see where you're at right now, man, to where you were even, February, March, April, I have a lot of faith in what you're doing. I think the idea, the business plan, the model, the place, the food, I know the operators running it. I think it's a really sexy, great option for people. And I think it's going to be successful as long as we can get the juju back going and get this, get this world back going. And,
Right.
and even talking about the things that are going on right now in the world. And like I said, you've got a couple of National Guards posted right outside of your place right now. Right. I mean, just getting through all these things. But again, we all know you work through these things. It's worth, juice is worth the squeeze. You get through it, and you are so grateful by the time you get through it. And I have no doubt you're gonna get there.
So my business partner Adam is a very avid sailor, and so he races the Mackinac race every year. And so there was one year where they're out there with like 60-mile-an-hour winds, and it was brutal. And then sometime later there was like 80-mile-an-hour winds, and he's like, 60-mile-an-hour doesn't seem so bad anymore. And so it's like you hit these thresholds of like, well, you get through it. And there's places that have it, worse than us. There was a place not far from ours that opened up 3 days before the shutdown.
Oh, disgusting.
And you hear these other stories about like how challenging it is for a lot of places. And then you hear other stories like, holy cow, how are they doing that? Like, we're barely doing it. And, they had less chance than we did. And so it's, we appreciate that, our situation is tough, but there's a lot that are tougher than ours. And so just hoping that everyone's allowed to go back and safely do what we know how to do soon. That's the trick.
Well, and I think it's, really it's one of those things with the communities and shopping locally. I know, there's a lot of great restaurants around there. There's a lot of mom and pop. And I think of mom and pop places. I think of restaurants more so than I do a lot of other shops for me. Maybe it's just because of being in the restaurant world for so long. But to really get the biggest thing you're saying is having your community and building that relationships, as like we started the show off with, is so super important. And I think that's one of the big things that are starting to pop around right now, right? Shop locally, get to know your people. And it's so important. And I know and again, I know the characters of the guys running the place, and I could say second to none that if there's anybody that should be supported in Chicago, it's definitely you guys. I mean, I have a lot of great people out there, but and I think you're gonna get that. So, you work your ass off. Chef works his ass off. Your partner had a bar for how long? How long did he have a bar for?
Almost 30 years. Clark Street Ale House. So he was doing till 4 a.m. until.
Patrick, he's pickled.
Yeah.
He's pickled. But
I've had 2 drinks thrown in my face there.
Okay, good.
On
So
different occasions. Yeah.
That's the initiation. Once you get those thrown in your face, you're part of the club. You're good. Yeah,
like
you just gotta
Yeah,
get it.
baby. How you doing tonight? Yeah, I get like 1 second into it, and they're like, Creeposaurus.
Yeah, but now she's your wife, and that's really cool.
No, that's a different story.
Oh, my bad. I got those mixed up.
This is when I was cheating. No.
Oh no. Oh, now you. Oh God.
Oh, no.
Game over. No. But Patrick, you have any other words of wisdom or?
I love Chicago. It's my heart. I love the city. I love what you guys are doing. You're always up to something in the right direction. It's just like every time I go there, I'm like amazed, enthralled, and like the food's always, amazing, incredible, second to none. It just has a lot of positive energy, and really, at the end of the day, everything is like, did you like that? Did you not like it? And it's like, yeah, I liked it, So here in LA, everything's a little bit of a show and a little bit of like, how can we charge something that for $28 that should be $10? It's,
right.
different.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Well, and
don't get me wrong, there's a lot of innovation going on in LA, but it's more like the emperor has no clothes sometimes, and you pay to the nose. So Chicago, you know what you're getting and you get it.
Right. Yeah.
New York,
Yeah, there's
too.
substance for sure.
Yeah, there's
Yeah,
substance. That's
exactly.
that's the word, it's definitely substance. So I appreciate everybody in that business. And I was in that business in that city. And, I met a lot of really great people, and, it's just, it's awesome. And I'm still meeting them from even here. So it's a great city, and I wish you the best. And I'll be out there, hopefully your security will be kicking me out soon before you know it.
Well, we'll make sure if all goes
Right.
well, we'll be out there the first or second weekend of
Yeah,
August. First or
we'll
second
see.
of
We'll
August.
see.
Listen, I'm thinking optimistically. I'm putting out.
Q was always licking his chops, and I love that.
I want to go, man.
Yeah,
Listen,
so-
get her done. But yeah, you can have a couple drinks thrown in your face. Perfect. But
And Q, I love you,
I'll
man.
personally throw a
Q,
drink
I
in
love
your
you like a
face.
neighbor I
Just
don't
to remind
speak to
yourself.
at all.
what was that, Patrick?
I said, because you were saying to Chris earlier, I love you, man. I'm like, Q, I love you like a neighbor I don't speak to very often.
That's really charming. I really appreciate that. You're a swell human.
Very endearing.
Yeah, very endearing. Chris,
you know the reality.
Chris, you got anything else for us? You want to say plug anything while you're here one last time?
No, I think just people that can, please support, whether it's going out like places that got looted. There are people out there with brooms and dustpans helping sweep up. I think just that community involvement, recognizing that small businesses are severely challenged, as everyone is, and just everyone doing what they can. I think that's all you can ask for right now, because everyone's in different positions of ability to do that, and that's all you can ask for, really.
Well, and that's perfectly said. I just want to say I did go down, for anybody who wants to check it out. I'll plug my Instagram real quick. Q Loves You All on Instagram. I had a story for go to the highlights and the protest part. I mean, I was down there yesterday through the whole ordeal, and then this morning, the biggest part that really hit me yesterday was kind of crazy and scary, but what hit me this morning was going down there and checking it out and seeing humanity again. When all these bad things happen, everybody's out there cleaning up the streets, sweeping. There's there's bad actors and all this stuff, as they would say on the political aspects, right? Bad actors. But it really is, there's great people around there. And I know certainly the one thing I definitely Chicago is one of the strongest. You say you're from Chicago, Midwest, it's like an epicenter. It goes Midwest and then Chicago. I mean, being from Minnesota, I'm a Vikings fan, Chicago fans. I still hate you guys and I love you at the same time. Right?
Whoa. Don't go there.
Well, I'm sorry. It's football season. Well, we're supposed to have football season. Can I be happy?
You know what? Hey, in your face, Q. Eat it. All right.
You know what?
Let's get on that Viking stuff.
That's what you get
right. Oh my God.
That's underwear.
All right.
That's where the baby trunks from the 50s.
Sorry, I can't show my butt. And Chris, I like to show my butt. It's a crazy thing. Anyway, so went off tour a little bit there. But I think the bottom line is in Chicago, we will people will support you. It is your address is 1312 South Wabash. 1312 South.
1312 South Wabash.
Phone number is
312-736-1570. And you can now order online.
312 in the hizzy.
Okay, 312 on the hizzy, and you can go, and it's at Harbor Chicago on Instagram or harborrestaurant.com.
harborchicago.com.
Harbor Chicago. Okay.
So
anyway, all right. So I tell you what, listen, man, I wish you the best out there. Obviously, I hope everything stays safe for you guys in the neck of the woods. I think both you guys stay safe, and anybody out there right now, please stay safe.
Stay safe.
You got to have faith that this is all going to work out in the end. It will. But anyway, without any more words from anybody else, I think we'll call it a night. You guys good?
Yep.
Yeah. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate the chance to talk.
Hey, Amber, we love you. Take care of the dogs. Also, by the way, anybody watching this Thursday, we go to Throwdown Thursdays, Patrick and I. It's going to be comedians this week, but we're going to have a little bit special, a special edition because of what we've gone through here in the last week. We're going to dig into that a little bit more and hope to bring.
But it won't be like a very special facts of life.
No.
Okay. No one's being molested.
Hey, you take the good, you take the bad, you take the both, and there you have, the facts of life. I just want
we're going to have fun, but it's not going to be,
it'll be right. It'll be right for the moment. Chris, Make sure you take care of those great elf pants that you've got on underneath there. I know. And
Yes.
who's waving in the background? Who's that?
Here's Buddy Guy sleeping.
There's Buddy Guy.
That's Buddy Guy.
Yeah.
And we
This is
got
my buddy guy.
that's Declan. That's
Yeah.
that's Deck.
Wilson's stuck in the couch over there.
Yeah.
Wilson.
Yeah, there's Wilson.
Pooches. Where's our coach?
She's by the door.
He's chilling.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, guys.
Hey,
Q,
take care,
outstanding.
you guys.
Chris,
We'll see you soon.
Godspeed.
I'll holler at you guys.
All
Be well,
right.
boys.
Good talk.
Cheers.
Thank you all for watching. See you later.
Thank you.
Later, guys.
Bye, guys.
Take care.